अस्सलामुअलैकुम। मैं ज़मीर अहमद अंसारी और आप देख रहे हैं जेड न्यूज़ फॉर यू। अर्ज़ यह है कि आपने अपने चैनल जेड न्यूज़ फॉर यू को अभी तक सब्सक्राइब नहीं किया है तो सब्सक्राइब करें और साथ में दिए हुए बेल आइकन को भी दबाएं, जिससे हमारी आने वाली सभी वीडियोस के नोटिफिकेशन सबसे पहले आपको मिल सकें।
I begin with what we do. So this is our Fronius India Pune headquarters. So in India, under the Make in India initiative, we have a complete center which does only not represent the technology, but is also open for all the OEMs, all the tier 1s and tier 2s for doing their developmental activities in-house. So we do create that environment. Other than the HQ, we also have our regional offices all around Pan India, where the nearest OEM or tier 1 can approach or can facilitate their research activities together in collaboration with the company. So that ecosystem also we are driving forward. When I talk about now the two-wheeler as specific, so because changing the world is possible, definitely whatever we have been discussing is to further upskill, grow, and to change the world. Because we believe in the power of an idea as a Fronius, we continuously keep on thinking that what we can do in terms of the technological evolution, or where we can go one step higher or can cross the line where the welding industry has been so far. So in typically, as you can see on the screen, there are a few of the skeleton components which is being made by the suppliers like us. It a frame of a welding, the exhaust in IC engine so far, swing arms, fuel tanks, and other battery box now recently, and other components, accessory components related to the welding. So, because this session is also talking about the EV part, so as we change from ICE to EV, there are also going to be some commonality in the skeleton, but yeah, there is also going to be elimination in terms of the exhaust and adoption in terms of the battery boxes. So this new design component has to be incorporated inside the welding, inside the skeleton of the two-wheeler or maybe a scooter, which we say so. So, what are the challenges? Let's be very straight to the point and approach in terms of the industry. What are the challenges which I'm considering in the industry which is being faced? I'm been seeing that the tier 1 vendors, while making their components, they are facing a problem of a part gaps. They face a problem of a cycle time because the production schedules or the quantity is a kind of cyclic or fluctuating. So they have the cycle time pressures, engineering study of the components, the accessibility of the component, overall saving that the PCOP term which we speak about, the productivity increase, the material usage in terms of material, which material can be used in the future, which adoption is easier to use, and the robotic use of it. We have seen the industry changing very strongly from the manual welding to the automation welding. And the trend in the last 5 years has been phenomenal. I would say that out of 6,000 robots that have been sold in the country, around 40 to 50% falls in the range of the welding robot. You can say that. And then the welding aesthetic, as I mentioned, very important. When customer acquire or has a proposition of a higher CC bikes. So today he wanted to have a feel of a better aesthetics. He wanted to have a rugged feeling with the vehicle. He wanted to have that naked frame body. He wanted to see that vehicle in front of it. And the last very important would be the kind of distortion in heat input that this process involves. Because the process itself is about fusion of the two materials. So you have to skip that particular heat input into that. So as you can see on the screen, these are the kinds of demands of the welding and the today era, where you need a very comprehensive clean welding that is visualized not only by the manufacturer but also by the user. So that is very important that it needs to be incorporated in this particular domain, and it is quite feasible with the technology available today. Moving next is how you can do it. Till 3 or 4 years back, when such issues used to be come in the industry where the accessibility of the joint was not there, and maybe it's a robotic or a manual, there has to be a degradation of the process adoption. and then you compromise on the other defect attributes kind of sputters into it. But let me tell you, without change in any of the dynamics in the robotic, such welding is now very much possible. And just not about the welding, it's also going to save a lot in terms of the productivity, and also saves a lot in about the total defectiveness of the such joints. And joint strength is of course the main key area. So you can bring a lot of changes into the frames. You can make more modified frames if the welding technology of such caliber is possible now. Also, you can have, if you look on the welding aesthetic part, where you need a kind of a ripple formations. You wanted to have some ripple formations on the body. While you have seen few of the two-wheelers around, you can observe that on the body of the two-wheeler, you will have such ripple formation. So these are all not the finishing, it's just ready to weld. After the weld, you can have such finishing operations onto your components, quite ready to use. Post the welding, no finishing operation required as such. So when I talk about the productivity as such, so there can be a question that why the productivity is required. I can take both the angles. If suppose you have a volume, a fix of manufacturing a particular component. So if you have a good productivity in terms of welding, either you can make the same amount of components by the less amount of machinery involved or less amount of the cell involved, or either you can make your cell ready for a higher adoption of more productivity. So if I'm just taking across your welding processes, I don't know how many of you are aware about the limitation of the speed today, but the technology which I'm going to show you can reap a welding result of a phenomenal speeds of up to more than 2 meters per minute into the industry. So talking about the productivity increase, it leads to a 66% increase in the productivity. It overall, if you see, reduce in the overall part cost, if you see, it's phenomenal in terms of your spatter saving, your cell and the robot saving. As I mentioned if suppose you need a 10 amount of cells to manufacture a particular amount of component, now the same thing can be done by just making 7 to 6 cells. So you just overall your TCOP is not compromised. You are doing by adoption of a higher technology the same amount of productions with a higher adoption of technology here. Then I talk about the heat input as such. So heat input is also one area which is very much discussed with us when we go approach the industry, that how can we counter the distortion in the frames or our components as we do more and more welding. So to avoid that, people are trying to make lesser welding in one cell. They are trying to make more cells so that heat input should be reduced. But let me tell you, with the technology today, like cold metal transfer that Fronius patents, we can go to a very far extent with the multiple welding on the cycle. The heat input part element is not at all compromised. You no need to have to go to the distortion operations like tuning post that. When I talk about the spatters as a whole, we have made a lot of comparison in the part component, also in the lab conditions. We have seen what is spatter is just the kind of consumable wire that you use. So the spatter overall has gone incredibly down here. You can see in your picture in front of you that with a process like CMT, it is just 0.002 spatters per meter. It's just nothing. It's just nothing. So it's like complete clean finished joints that you're going to achieve. Even after using one of the very cheaper gas in the industry, that is 100% CO2. Though the adoption is a kind of a combination gas argon, which is with the market conditions going more and more up, more expensive. So even with using just standardized CO2 gases, you can attain a very high amount of the welding clarity. And again, coming back to the adoption of the TCOP, which I say. Some visual representations for you that when you do a welding on such higher adoption trellis frames, there are multiple frames that industry use. In higher CC bikes today, the industry are using a trellis frames, which is of multiple joints and joint geometries. So when they do such weldings, this is the problem they encounter. So for such problems, yes, there is a solution, I would say. Now the more point of discussion, which together we can have in the panel also, that what is the material that can be adopted in the future. Can that be a steel? Can that be a high strength steels? Can that be aluminium? I've seen a lot of new startups coming up with the assembly of the frames, maybe making the casted components of aluminium. Some are using the tubular steel frames just for the fabrication. So this is a point of debate that between the choice of the light rating of the vehicle and fuel efficiency, which material that you wanted to use. The reply from our side, may you use an aluminium or you use a high tensile strength steel. We have very good prominent solutions in all the ranges of the megapascal strength, ranging from 580 to 980 to reaching up to 1200. We have that technology which can enable your material to be weldable, just leaving aside the work hardenability of that component. The technology will induce a very low heat input in the process so that your strength component of the material is not compromised as such. So I just wanted to show a video, but I think that's yeah. Okay. No problem. So let me cover up the component of the TCOB at the last. Is the total cost of ownership. If you just go through this graph behind you, is that when you see that I want to adopt higher technology, let me tell you what is the portion of the technology in the complete production process. Can you make a guess? We have tried studying this particular trend in the terms of the adoption of technology, because the first question being asked to us when we approach any of the industry, that okay, the technology is good and fine, we can understand that, but what is the feasibility of the adoption of this process in my existing line and process? So the overall capital cost, if you say in this complete graph, is just, if you see in the red, is just a 5%. It's just a 5% of the total process of the production. You spend around 22%, 23% on the operator cost. You spend around 45% on total welding cell cost that you manufacture. In terms of wastage and the repair, you spend around 8.5%. And the usage of the consumers like the gases or the contact tips, the nozzles, and a lot of things to run that system. You spend around 9.9, 9.1 to 10% of the part. So if you see just the investment of the right technology into this is just 5%. So I always have been reiterating back again that we should think of adopting the technology, the good technologies. We should not be very at the back foot of adopting a new technologies, just seeing at the capital cost that it involves. We should see that while using this technology, how my total cost is going to be recovered, or what is my total cost of ownership in that particular manufacturing process, or I can add some value addition also into this particular chain. That is what is going to matter the most. So that is just a brief thing which I wanted to show, and just yes, digitalization, you can't now skip this. This is something very important these days. Industry 4.0, be it a welding process, everything needs to be incorporated, reading, writing of the welding processes. Now as you see, all the vendors or all the OEMs having a multi-location plants at different facilities. So very important that they should have an access to their manufacturing data while being at the centralized location. Not only can they assess the data, they can make an analytical approach on what is the wire consumption, gas consumption that is being made in the process, and finally would be the right, how they can write the process, how they can control the process, just not observe the process. So yes, very much we are ready with that. We are Industry 4.0 ready with this particular process. I'm very apologetic that I wanted to show you a few videos that is not running in the background. So here I end my presentation. Thank you very much for the time.
100%. Where do you think we'll end up as a penetration by when, and what will be the key drivers?
Well, thank you so much, Sankalp. So before I start, how many of you have driven electric two-wheeler? So see, I think this answers the question. because I could see only 3% maybe out of the entire lot have driven. So I think the first thing which we as an ecosystem should do is to help people drive scooters, electric scooters more. I was struggling to give my father a scooter because he wanted a scooter to drive in Kolkata, and I was saying, why don't you get an electric scooter? I'm from the same industry, I have my own scooter, so why don't you buy? And he was saying, no, I am happy with the petrol. It took me almost 3 months persuasion to give him a scooter, and he has driven and now he's using it. So that is one of my biggest achievements when I came to EV. And while he's using it, I asked him two things. One, you don't have to go to a petrol pump to fill up the fuel. He thinks it's easy for him to charge at home and drive across. The second aspect was noise free. I think it's a behavioral change. When you drive EV, after 7-8 years you feel it's so good. It's no noise, no pollution. So it becomes a part of your journey overall. So answering your question, I think 30% is what I'm expecting to grow naturally here on in the next 3 years max. This last year was around 9% mostly. Beyond 30%, it will be very tough to increase the percentage unless and until we focus on spare part availability in the markets. If Honda Activa gets broken, you can easily get service at a local mechanic. But EVs are a different animal altogether. So we need ecosystem of spare parts, aftermarket spare parts for it to focus. Also, I feel EV, there's so much following the traditional IC engine design or batteries. It needs a fresh approach. I've seen BMW electric two-wheeler that is totally new in terms of concept. So very important for us as an industry to not to follow the IC engine mechanism or design in the EV ecosystem. It's important to have a fresh outlook towards adoption, and that will increase adoption from 30% to I could see even 100% in the next 10 years or so.
Thank you, Amit. Let me go to Sujit. Fairly optimistic projection of 30% in the next 3 years. Do you agree, and what do you think will be the constraints?
Yeah, so 30% is really amazing and encouraging, I would say. EV will grow, according to me, and it has to grow. It is the betterment of our environment, betterment of our planet. Everything said, heard, sounds good, but one of our esteemed audience colleague asked the question, what is it for me? And this is what is more important as a consumer. So currently in EV, if we see, the EV is predominantly dominated by our new age OEMs who lack experience in automotive industry, I would say. And then there was some resistance by the traditional automakers who are doing IC engines since a century, but now they are also converting into EV. This EV adoption will increase only and only if it is affordable to the end user. So environmental thing and all those things is fine. It is good to hear, and it is also good to contribute, and it has to be. But at the end of the day, it has to be affordable for everybody's pocket. Currently, if we see EV is expensive. And that is where we have also seen that when this FAME-II subsidy has gone down, and all of a sudden, the volumes in EV crashed. It went down. And then, all the OEM started looking after reducing the cost of EV. And when they achieve up to a certain extent, again the volumes are at certain level. So cost is one. Another thing is the technology. We started our EV journey almost a decade ago, if I remember it right. And this was probably the right approach by importing stuff from our big brothers in EV, that is China, assemble the vehicles, because assembling of EV is far easier than assembling IC engine vehicle. And EV has proven that the people who have succeeded in EV are non-traditional automakers. Let it be Tesla, let it be Ola, let it be Okinawa, let it be Hero Electric. All these companies are traditionally not automotive, and they started this journey, I would say, and then slowly it is complemented by the mature automakers. They also stepped into it, and then they are trying to bring in quality into it. I don't say that the quality is bad. Quality is pursued basically, and quality is being made as per the kind of market what we have. The products which we are operating in India, Indian atmosphere is different, climate is different, our road conditions are different, our grid conditions are different than the world. So whatever is working probably in China may not work as reliable in India. And so if something is working in Germany or USA may not work as is in India. This is what we have to understand, and this is where we have to put a lot of our R&D strength and bring the technology, grow the technology at our home and try to be a truly Atmanirbhar Bharat. What is Atmanirbhar Bharat? We have to depend on ourselves. How we will depend on ourselves? If we don't do the research, we don't develop products from scratch here in India for our climate, for our needs, how we will become Atmanirbhar? Bringing technology from outside and then using as is probably may not solve the purpose. Bringing technology, learning from our big brothers in technology is not bad. But definitely we have to work as per our needs. Safety comes second. And I think this technology and this homegrown technology that I'm talking about is also somehow addressing the need of safety. A couple of years ago, we had some incidences in EV and which probably had some kind of backslash. Our people have some concern whenever some electric vehicle is seen. But this is not the case since a couple of years because immediately government kicked in. There are some standards and the standards have been followed and accidents so far are not heard. So this is good. So one is regulation, which is kind of keeping the industry up to the mark in terms of safety. But at the same time, to have it, we have to probably do on our own many things. I'll talk about my company. At Uno Minda, we have CREATE, which is a centralized R&D center. We have a complete EV vertical, wherein we are working on to our self-developed technologies, and we are fairly successful in getting into this business and making products on our own. The benefit what it gives is if something fails, I don't claim that we don't fail. We fail and everybody fails. But how we learn from failure is the key. If I'm importing some part and if it fails, what I can do, I can replace it. So easy. What we do, if our part fails, we also replace. So easy. But we do also a difficult job. At least since we have developed it on our own, we know that what has gone wrong. We understand what has gone wrong. And then we can update our product in such a way that it will not have the same failure again and make the product more robust for our country, for our road conditions, for our climatic conditions, for our grid conditions, and for our usage. If we address these things, there are only few which I said in interest of the time. Probably EV is the future and EV will go further, and we need not to convince anybody to buy EV. We all will be motivated to buy EV because ultimately it is also social cost. Long answer.
Thank you, Sujit. And I think one of the important points that you mentioned is we keep talking about total cost of ownership, but at least on the consumer side, we are more worried about price and not cost. So Gaurav, let me ask you, if it costs a multiple of an ICE vehicle to own an EV vehicle, how will it drive penetration to 20%, 30%?
Yeah, very interesting question. I just continue the discussion started. That when initially the EV started, it was basically the non players, not the bigger OEM players who started this game. So slowly the bigger OEMs started coming into this particular process. Though people were thinking that EV adoption would be quite later, but the way it picked up, even bigger OEMs came to the race quite early.
So still, if you see the total market of EV, which around 8 lakhs of a vehicle, I would see that only 2 or 3 dominant players who is ruling this particular market. And then government has also played a very important role in the policy making. FAME 1, FAME 2. FAME 1 came from 2015 for the 2 years, further extended. In 2019, FAME 2 policy came in. But after June, I would say that there has been a subsequent reduction in the subsidy when 1 million vehicle sale has been done. So from 40% to 15%. I think, of course, this question is going to come that how the manufacturing process has to be cost effective. So one thing which I have observed in our domain is that there are 2 types of manufacturers that is adopting the manufacturing. One is for making low volumes, but there has been an assembly where I told that maybe a aluminum caster components and the riveting of the frame. But then around 40 to 50% people are playing with the volumes where they are manufacturing the complete frame by themselves, the tubular frame and adoption of steel. Though manufacturing that is quite buildable, doable, and the total cost also falls down. Even for the players who have the less volume, I think they can tie up with the bigger tier ones for their particular share of the components. So that is not a big thing. But as moving ahead, I think number one would be the user of the technological process, which can be of value, and of the mass production, which I do feel is of subsequent thing. But there are other peripheral things also that need to be taken care of. I think which has been discussed less is the skilling element. To make it more effective, we need to have that research structure or maybe the skilling structure. Today, when we try to find out people, skilling people or skilled people in this trade, we actually have to start from the beginning. So we take them, we train them, but I think if a better infrastructure from OEMs, from the suppliers, from the government, where we can enable all the technology, where one of our friends or the audience says that, what about 3D printing? So yeah, it's there from last 15 years, 20 years, but what about the implementation part of it? Whom supplier will approach? Where they will go and make such components? Is there a facility commercially viable or not? So there are many questions which side.
So we just park that question on technology, because I think it's an important aspect. I think Sujit also mentioned the whole Make in India aspect. But just raising that important point around subsidy, and I'll bounce it back to Amit. Can the EV two-wheeler industry survive without subsidy?
So it's a very, I'll say, like a contradictory question, because and also very debatable also, I think, for the audience also. But the entire industry, the subsidy came at a point when industry was growing, and many people started business to follow subsidy. They started developing extra batteries to gain more subsidy. So if you put a benchmark like this and ask people to follow this, then the innovation goes out, because then people start focusing only on reducing the cost. Okay. So I feel subsidy should be focused not only on certain elements like battery or localization of component. It should be more on the performance of the vehicle overall. I've been in South Asia, across Germany also, but I've seen in South Asia, East Asia, except for Honda and Yamaha, no two-wheeler is successful. In Thailand, almost 98% is Honda. In Vietnam, 100% is Yamaha, I can say, right? Why not Hero? Why not Bajaj? Why not other companies of Indian origin who are successful in Africa or Latin America, but not in South Asia, which is highly quality conscious. So if as a company, as an industry, you have to compete with the Japanese way of thinking in terms of two-wheelers, we have to not look into subsidy and overall, we have to look into overall performance of the vehicle. And that needs a larger collaboration from good experts in play globally who have expertise in the two-wheeler segment. And we should not restrict borders for that. We need to have a global council for increasing the performance of EVs, and India should be part of it, if at all. And subsidy for me is not important. More focus should be on performance for a long-lasting stability of the ecosystem.
Let me ask you another related question. because of the subsidy and because the entry barriers in two-wheelers are particularly low. You have over 20 people, 20 OEMs selling electric two-wheelers today. Right? There are so many brands. And one of my clients, who's also an OEM, jokingly told me, "Karna kya hai? Chipkana hi to hai." So, how are you differentiating yourself from other OEMs?
To be honest, there's no difference right now because motor coming from China, Taiwan, controller coming from China, Taiwan. Yeah, we are focusing on the design aspects of it, durability aspects of it, BMS part of it, as well as software. Okay, as somebody mentioned in the last panel, that software is going to be a major contributor for the EV. It's a connected vehicle information system. Will all this software integration will be very, very, very crucial. If I look forward to a good controller in India, I don't get actually, to be honest with you. If I look for a good motor, Bosch is good, but Bosch is very costly. They are almost I think 95%. I was speaking to LG. They're coming up with a new motor. So I think, to be honest with you, unless and until the local ecosystem supports your design innovation, you can't do everything. You can't do software, you can't do design, you can't do integration. So for me, we're focusing on more on the software aspects of it, so that there's more safety, better, I'll say, accountability of the vehicle in terms of charge, and in terms of durability. At least we are able to have a preventive mechanism to service the vehicle at the right time. That's all we are doing as of now. Obviously, there are more collaborations which is happening from our side, and we'll see how it grows.
Thanks, Amit. And technology, which is the point that we were trying to debate. How do you get out of this chipkana hi hai conundrum? And if I were to ask you, what are the three technologies where you will see a lot of innovation in India to support the ecosystem? What would those three be?
So from technology development point of view, main is the drivetrain of electric vehicle, which comes from motor controller. Then the battery, BMS, and then the charging system. So these are the key and the core part of EV systems. And this is where more research and development is needed, which we are doing already, even in the motors. Going forward, EV is normally pursued as a technology vehicle. If you make an EV which looks a traditional vehicle, probably people are not attracted. People don't even recognize this is EV. So, in common people, EV is pursued as very technologically advanced and something fancy looking, something different, which is computer controlled, internet controlled vehicle, something like that. So the technology, apart from these core technologies, are kind of telematics, your clusters, displays, ADAS. So these are the technologies probably which will also grow and has to grow in order to make EVs more lucrative and more attractive to people to buy, because they are not only buying EV, which is helping the environment, but they are buying technology. Like we change our phone every 2 years, 3 years. There are people who are changing every year or every 6 months. So let people also do it with EV.
Thank you. Well, let me pose another key concern to you. Infrastructure and range anxiety. If I have an EV, will it run out of charge? Do I go for swappable batteries or static batteries? And what happens if I get stranded on the road? So we've not seen currently the infrastructure keeping in pace with sales. What do you think needs to change to reduce this range anxiety?
Very important question. Though I am of the opinion of having a standardization, less of the swapping, but if there is a more of a standardization in the infrastructure, I know that there is an overlapping of the investment that will happen by each players in that sector, but I think that cooperation would be required, that liability cooperation would be required in the field. That is very much required, because you can't work in isolation. There need to be a standardization of the charging, standardization of the batteries in the way forward, so that it becomes the dilemma, consumer dilemma goes down and down, because till now I would say the major contribution why it has not picked the level much is because consumer is still very much in a confusion that shall I wait for 1 or 2 years more till the time infrastructure settles down, or but I think from my way it must be a standardized approach. Swapping of batteries, I would say would not be a more sustainable way. I would say if we share the liabilities of each company as a charging infrastructure, that definitely can support in a big way and a longer way. That's my
Thank you. Let me go back to, I would like to come in case.
So, when we talk about infrastructure, according to me, for two-wheeler, this is not the major concern, because first of all, charger, if it is onboard charger, it is in your vehicle, you are taking it along with you wherever you go. If there is outboard charging concept, you can very well put it in your storage space, which is provided by the OEM, and you carry it with you, and then you can charge it with your normal home plug. Because what your normal plug, which supplies 5 ampere, is also sufficient to charge your vehicle from this point of view. Instead of infrastructure, I would like to elaborate a little bit what Gaurav said about standardization. That I also feel that there should be standardization, and to have this standardization, there should be consortium between the OEMs who are making these EV vehicles. Like we have consortiums for AutoSpice, we have consortium for AutoSAR. Similar consortium is required for Indian OEMs to standardize the protocol. Let us say if I have an EV of one brand and somehow I forgot my charger and I want to use someone else's charger, will it charge my vehicle? Answer, probably yes, probably no. If it is a common thing, then probably I can charge it. But if it is a smart charger which communicates over CAN, which communicates with my VCU and then the BMS, and then they are giving me what voltage to charge and what current to charge, probably then I will not be. Then I am tied up, I am married with that kind of system. So standardization, if we have standardization, probably we can be more flexible, and predominantly 2 models will probably be there, 6 battery as well as the swappable battery. Everyone has their pros and cons, and pros and cons are there for everything, but let it be. So swappable battery and 6 battery, however standardization according to me is more important as those.
Thank you both for that question on cooperation and standardization. So let me go back to the earlier question that I had posed to you. I mean, there are 20 of you all, 20 plus of you all in the industry.
And I really agree with Gaurav that swappable battery will take a long while to reach there. So these are few of the things.
Perfect. Last question for you, Gaurav. Asia is perhaps the most important market in the world as far as two-wheelers are concerned. Right? 4 or 5 countries are hyper important in this region. India is one of them, China is another, Thailand, Philippines, Indonesia. And we've seen examples from multiple countries where OEMs or component manufacturers are collaborating or going into other markets. So for example, Gogoro has tied up with Zomato and Swiggy, or GoTo between Indonesia and Vietnam. We don't see too many OEMs or component manufacturers from India going into other markets. Everyone's really focused on India alone. And that's a bit of a dichotomy compared to the ICE two-wheelers, where we are very big on the global stage. What do you think needs to happen to put India on the world map as far as EV two-wheelers or components are concerned?
Very straight answer to that. I think it was also discussed in another panel discussion. First, we have to change the image, and we have to be more tend towards the quality consciousness part, because then only we tend to bring our country on the global map, because we have to relate to the quality part of it. Though slowly, as I mentioned you, today I see a lot of collaborations on the vehicle part happening, not on the component. I see bigger OEMs venturing with the global companies like Harley, maybe Triumph, maybe KTM, So there have been BMW, they all have been collaborating with the local national players. So that is happening on the vehicle part. But if we can change that image, the quality part of it, I think surely the reversal will also happen. Even the OEMs who are located at their respective principal country locations, they will also like to source the components back to their country. So it is. I think this is just a matter of time that how we respond to it better, because it has just initiated. And in last 1 or 2 years, I have seen that happening on the bigger scale. While you spoke about the component part of it, I think it can very soon be happening. It's not very soon to maybe the developed countries, but yes, we have a bigger market like Vietnam, Indonesia, so we can definitely start from there. But I think we have to bring that people think that India must have a concurrence as a quality. So then when that starts particularly happening, I think it will be easy job to do.
I would like to thank my fellow panelists. We've eaten a little bit into your lunch time. Maybe we can take 2 or 3 questions before we break. Yes, sir. If you could just introduce yourself and address the question, and you can mention who you want to.
Be an obstacle for EVs. This is because they are trying to come at a price point where a lot of incentive is given to them, and plus then they are also coming up with a lot of innovations. For example, ADAS. They are making the regenerative braking, for example, and composite materials, etc., which are going to make their bikes a lot more lighter, safe, etc. Which was not the case previously. So how are we going to see that sort of innovations coming up in electric vehicles? Because in electric vehicles we are seeing a lot of challenges regarding the batteries because of they are coming up with lithium, and they are a lot more. We have to blend it with silicon, sodium, etc., so that these batteries are basically a lot more. Suit the conditions of Indian, and they are able to be temperature resistant, etc. So how can we have that sort of innovations coming up with in the electric vehicles to have better tracks? Thanks so much.
Regarding competition, so competition will be always there. So it's not this world and that world. So everywhere competition is there and we have to compete. There is no question about it. Second, all the innovations, whatever you mentioned of lightweighting, ADAS, so if those are done for IC vehicle, those also can be adopted very easily to EV. Rather, these innovations should translate from EV to IC engine. This is what I feel, because I feel that people perceive EV as a technology leader. And lightweighting should be the paramount importance for EV, because every gram added is burning out your battery more and you are eating up your range. So these things are there. I think OEMs are definitely working on all these topics. Battery technology is also improving. There are several battery chemistries wherein there is research going on, and this is getting stabilized better. And also government is playing an important role in putting up standards and testing of batteries. And they have to qualify these battery packs and their systems before it fitted into the vehicle. Yeah, this is what I would say.
Thanks, yes, sir. And if you could please introduce yourself and let us know who you would like to answer.
Good afternoon again. I'm Bharat Sharma from Denso. I have a question to Mr. Ahmedji. Like as you're saying that maybe in the next couple of years, EV penetration will be going to 25 to 30%. As currently that we have seen that there is a 2 type of EVs are available, like low speed and high speed. So if we are talking about the 30% penetration among overall two-wheeler sales, so which will be the contributor, which segment will be the contributor for that? Higher end EV or a low speed EV or high speed EV? Or which two-wheeler segment which you see that will be impacted because of this?
So India is all about finance. गाड़ी की EMI कितने मिलती है and what's the down payment like. So I think high speed has finance facility basically to propel the buying. So I think high speed will contribute to almost 70% of the total, because of finance. This is what I feel. Second aspect is in terms of sorry, the second question was regarding?
My question is like if we talk about in 30%, who will be the contributor, that's low speed or high speed?
High speed is a major contributor according to me because of finance. Okay, and the market is totally getting divided into two segments. One is a niche segment, which is more than 1.2 lakhs, in which all the 7-8 players will come and play. Like Ola is there, TVS is there, Ather is there, Bajaj is there, Honda is there. Okay, and below 1.2 is a mass segment, common man segment, wherein players like us will come and play. And our job is to give highest quality at low price, and their job is to give quality at a price which they have used for R&D. And so I think the market is divided into two segments: niche and mass segment. And high speed is going to be the major contributor for the next wave of increase in terms of adoption.
It will be replacing to the scooter?
Primarily, I feel EV is a scooter market because the motorcycle needs much more research and development, safety parameters, post-accident scenarios. So I think scooters will be mostly adopted according to me.
So I think we have time for just one more question. We can take the others offline. Yes, sir. Please do introduce yourself. We have a time. Can we take it offline during lunch, please?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sharon Chauhan. I am representing Beckmacon Technology here. We are a vehicle intelligence company, so we develop the core electric components of a vehicle, and we portray it in terms of electric vehicle. It's a software-driven industry. So the challenges being faced by the electric vehicle industry it's all about the ecosystem. Starting from the finance, as Amit has mentioned. So finance company is about the challenges are they want to track a asset, and the value of the degradation of the electric vehicle is not being fixed yet. So in terms of IC engine, the local mechanic can easily judge the vehicle that it's deteriorating at a certain level, and the electric vehicle it's not being yet finalized. And aftermarket sales, everything is in the ecosystem. So I guess that government should be pushed with the component level to boost up the electric vehicle. I just want to get the views of the panels. Yeah.
So if you can ask the specific question that.
So in terms of the pushing the markets for electric vehicle, so what would be the Chinese alternative approach, like one plus China option? Is it viable, or how standardization should be focused?
And who would you like?
Anyone.
So I was in China. I was seeing entire city was only using electric, nothing else. Completely electric. And for them, mobility is the prime objective. And government has made banned IC engines there. So that's why their adoption increased a lot, and they're used to it now. They can charge well, they can keep their vehicles well, but they feel it's the only alternative left. Okay, they don't use any strong software as such as of now. They're using it for mobility perspective. So I think the adoption will mostly depend on the government initiatives also, and because that will change the behavior a lot for the consumers. We drive petrol. When I was driving scooter, we used actually till the last fuel come to when we start again. That was where I started scooters. I was driving 11 Vesta then, and now it's a totally different behavior for EVs. Okay, so I feel this is a change. Whether software is going to drive or government initiative is going to drive or something else. Maybe the petrol price increases next year and you see more than 50% growth. We don't know. So let's see how it goes from here.
Thank you, everyone. Happy to take further questions during lunch.
Thank you to all the speakers. Now I would like to request Mr. Sankalp Bhattacharya to hand over to present the token of appreciation to Mr. Gaurav Aneja, please. To Dr. Sujit Sopal. To Mr. Amit Das. Now I would like to request Mr. Gaurav Aneja to present the token of appreciation to Mr. Sankalp Bhattacharya. Thank you so much to all the speakers and the audience.